Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Everyone, to my channel we uncover the mysteries of coins that many people overlook but that can hide extraordinary value, and today we are going to talk about one of the most fascinating and unexpected treasures in numismatics, the 1988 1-cent coin, a simple Lincoln penny that most people have spent without thinking twice. Yet certain examples of this coin have stunned the collecting world by being valued as high as $3 million because of their errors, mistakes, and rare anomalies that turn an ordinary cent into a fortune, and in this deep exploration we will discuss what makes the 1988 1-cent so valuable, what types of errors exist, how these errors happen during the minting process, why collectors are willing to pay millions, and how these coins have become legendary among numismatists. And to start, let's imagine the year 1988 when the United States Mint was producing billions of Lincoln cents at multiple facilities including Philadelphia and Denver, the Lincoln cent design itself having been in use since 1909 and still showing Abraham Lincoln's portrait on the obverse with the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, and among those billions of coins struck in 1988 a small number slipped through with extraordinary mistakes, and these mistakes, instead of making the coins undesirable, made them immensely valuable, because in numismatics rarity combined with demand is the formula for extraordinary value, and in the case of the 1988 cent we see this clearly. One of the most famous errors associated with the 1988 cent is the so-called 1988 reverse of 1989 variety, which means that some 1988 cents were struck using a reverse die intended for the following year, creating a transitional variety where the tiny design details do not match the year on the coin. And collectors immediately recognize this as an important variety because it represents a minting mistake during the preparation of dies, and when authenticated by grading companies it becomes a major rarity. And although many people ignore small design details, experts know that transitional varieties are among the most valuable coins in U.S. history, and in top condition these can command life-changing amounts. Adding to this are double die errors on the 1988 cent, where the die that struck the coin had been improperly hugged, creating noticeable doubling on inscriptions like, "In God We Trust," or "Liberty," or even on Lincoln's eye, lips, or the date itself. And when these double dies are bold and dramatic they instantly become valuable because they are visually striking and unmistakable, and when you add the fact that most have been lost to circulation, the surviving high-grade examples become incredibly rare. And then we also have off-center strike errors from 1988, where the coin blank was not properly seated in the collar and the die struck off target, producing coins with part of the design missing and part of the blank planchet showing, and collectors go crazy for these, especially when the date and mint mark are still visible, because that ensures the error is identifiable, and the further off-center the strike, the more dramatic and valuable the coin becomes. And in the case of 1988 cents with extreme off-center errors, some examples in pristine condition have sold for staggering sums, and then there are broad strike errors, similar in appearance but caused by the retaining collar failing to hold the blank in place during striking, which allows the coin to spread out larger than normal with the design often distorted, and these are prized by collectors who love unusual shapes, and when combined with other errors they can be worth massive amounts. And let's not forget wrong planchet errors, among the most dramatic of all, where a 1988 cent was struck on a blank intended for another denomination, like a dime or foreign coin, creating coins that are the wrong size, wrong weight, and sometimes even the wrong color, and these coins stand out immediately to the trained eye, and when authenticated they are worth a fortune, with collectors paying astronomical sums for unique examples. And another important type of error from 1988 are die cracks and die breaks, sometimes called cuts, where the die used to strike the coins develops a fracture or loses a piece of steel, and the resulting coins show raised lines or blobs of extra metal that were not part of the design, and some 1988 cents have been found with dramatic die cracks across Lincoln's portrait or huge cuts near the rim, and these are especially prized because they vividly show the failure of mint machinery, and collectors love dramatic stories behind coins, and when such errors are combined with high preservation, the value can climb into the millions. And then there are off-metal or transitional composition errors, where a coin was struck using a leftover planchet from another era or composition, and while by 1988 cents were made from copper-plated zinc, it is always possible for a few bronze planchets from pre-1982 or experimental compositions to have been struck, and if one of those survived and was authenticated, it would be an instant treasure worth millions because it represents a rare transitional error, and this possibility adds mystery and allure to the 1988 cent, and as we think about all these categories: doubled dies, transitional reverse, off-center strikes, broad strikes, wrong planchets, die breaks, composition errors, it becomes clear how a humble 1988 penny can transform into a $3 million rarity, because the value is driven by how unusual, dramatic, and rare the error is, and how well preserved the coin remains. And speaking of preservation, condition is critical, because coins that remain uncirculated with original luster, free of scratches and marks, graded MS-67, MS-68, or even higher by services like PCGS or NGC, become masterpieces of numismatics, and error coins in such condition are exponentially more valuable because most error coins are discovered during production or circulation and often damaged, so the few that survive in pristine state are almost priceless. And now imagine the thrill of an ordinary collector finding such a coin in their change in 1988 or in a roll of pennies decades later, a coin they thought was worth 1 cent turning out to be worth millions. And this possibility fuels the passion of collectors everywhere, driving them to search through rolls, jars, and collections in hopes of finding the next legendary piece. And with the internet and auction houses broadcasting such discoveries, the market for error coins has exploded, with wealthy collectors and investors bidding aggressively to secure ownership of unique examples, pushing values into the millions. And this is exactly how the 1988 cent has reached the level of $3 million. Because it is not just a coin but a symbol of rarity, luck, and history, and we must also reflect on why errors happen. The minting process itself is a high-speed industrial system where blank planchets are fed into presses, struck between dies under immense pressure, ejected, and counted at astonishing speeds, and with billions of coins produced, mistakes are inevitable, yet quality control usually removes them, but a few slip through unnoticed, and those survivors become legends, treasured by collectors for decades to come. And when you consider that billions of perfect 1988 cents exist but only a handful of dramatic errors survived, the rarity becomes clear, and that rarity combined with passionate demand drives the multi-million-dollar valuations. And beyond the financial aspect, these coins also tell stories, stories of the mint, of human error, of the unpredictable nature of machinery, and of the human fascination with flaws, and these stories add to their mystique, making them not just objects of value but pieces of history. And as time goes by, the supply of error coins only decreases, because some are lost, damaged, or destroyed, meaning the survivors only grow rarer and more valuable, ensuring that the legend of the $3 million 1988 cent will endure. And when you put all this together, the doubled dies, the transitional reverse varieties, the off-center and broad strike errors, the wrong planchets, the die breaks and cuts, the transitional compositions, the pristine uncirculated conditions, the passionate demand from collectors, the thrill of discovery by ordinary people, the fierce competition at auctions, and the historical significance of minting errors, you can see how the 1988 cent can rightfully command a value of $3 million, and perhaps even more in the future, because as collectors continue to compete for the rarest and most unusual examples, prices will only rise. And this is why the 1988 penny is not just a coin but a legend, a reminder that hidden treasures can be found in the most ordinary of places. And that sometimes imperfection is the greatest perfection of all. And so next time you come across a penny from 1988, take a closer look, because who knows, you might just be holding a coin worth $3 million, a coin that could change your life forever. Last 1996 1-cent coin. Everyone to our channel where we dive deep into the fascinating world of rare and valuable coins, coins that most people spend every single day without realizing that within the ordinary pocket change of billions of coins there can be a few that carry stories of mistakes, history, minting anomalies, and sheer luck. And today we are going to talk about one of those special treasures. The 1996 1-cent coin, a coin that on the surface looks like every other copper-plated zinc penny struck by the United States Mint in the mid-1990s, yet certain examples of this coin have shocked collectors and experts with their errors and minting mistakes that make them worth as much as $2 million, and in this exploration we will discuss exactly what makes a 1996 cent so valuable, the types of errors and mistakes that have been found, the possibilities of rare varieties existing in circulation, the ways these errors occur in the minting process, and why collectors are willing to pay fortunes for them. And we will connect all the dots between the world of mint machinery, numismatic passion, rarity, and human fascination with mistakes, because in the case of the 1996 penny, imperfection is the key to perfection in value. So let us begin by setting the stage in 1996 when the U.S. Mint was producing billions of Lincoln cents at both the Philadelphia and Denver facilities, coins that carried Abraham Lincoln's portrait on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, struck at lightning speed in massive numbers, and for the most part they were flawless, uniform, and ready for circulation, yet in that ocean of perfection a small handful slipped through with errors that turned them into legendary rarities, and one of the most dramatic categories of errors on the 1996 cent is the double die error, where during the die-making process the hub impresses the design onto the die more than once but slightly misaligned, resulting in doubling of design elements on the finished coins, and for Lincoln cents this can be seen in the inscriptions like, "In God We Trust," "Liberty," or the date itself, and sometimes in Lincoln's eye, lips, or chin, and when the doubling is strong and clear, it becomes highly collectible, especially when it is visible without magnification, because it shows a dramatic minting mistake that could never have been intended, and when such a coin from 1996 survives in uncirculated condition, with its luster intact and no wear, it instantly transforms from a 1-cent piece into a coin worth tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, or in the rarest cases, millions, and then we must consider off-center strikes, another type of error where the blank planchet was not properly seated in the collar during striking, causing Lincoln's portrait and the reverse design to be shifted to one side, leaving a crescent of blank planchet showing. And the more extreme the off-center, the rarer and more valuable it becomes, provided the date remains visible, because without the date collectors cannot tie it to 1996, and some 1996 off-center cents are dramatic, with Lincoln's face cut in half and the date still clearly readable, and these types of coins excite collectors and drive values upward, and alongside these are broad strikes, where the collar fails completely and the coin is struck without the restraining pressure, causing it to spread out larger and thinner than normal, often distorting the design, and these are particularly attractive to error specialists, and when combined with the 1996 date they can reach extraordinary values, but perhaps the most spectacular and valuable errors are those struck on the wrong planchet, where a 1996 cent was accidentally struck on a blank intended for another denomination like a dime, nickel, or even a foreign coin. And when this happens the resulting coin has the Lincoln cent design but the wrong weight, wrong size, and sometimes even the wrong color, such as being struck on a dime planchet and appearing silver rather than copper, and these errors are astonishing because they are so visually striking and so incredibly rare, and examples authenticated by grading companies like PCGS or NGC can command astronomical prices, even crossing into the $1 million range, and then we cannot forget die break errors, sometimes called cuts, which occur when part of the die cracks or breaks away, leaving a raised lump of metal on the coin where design details should have been, and 1996 cents have been found with dramatic die cracks running across Lincoln's head, through the date, or creating huge blobs on the rim, and these coins are like frozen moments of mint machinery failure, and collectors love them because they tell such a vivid story of how the coin was made, and the more dramatic the cut, the higher the value, and then there are multiple error coins. Coins that have more than one mistake, like a 1996 cent that is both off-center and struck on the wrong planchet, or a double die that also has a broad strike, and these compound errors are so rare that they are often unique, meaning no other example exists, and uniqueness in numismatics is the ultimate driver of value, explaining how a 1996 cent can command $2 million, because in auctions when collectors realize that they are bidding on something one of a kind, the bidding wars push values beyond imagination, and if we explore further into transitional errors, these can also apply to the 1996 cent, because although by this time cents were being struck on copper-plated zinc planchets, there is always the possibility that leftover bronze planchets from pre-1982 were mistakenly used, or that an experimental planchet found its way into the presses, and if a 1996 cent were found struck in solid bronze rather than copper-plated zinc, it would be an incredible rarity worth millions, and composition errors like this require advanced testing to confirm, which adds to their allure, and when certified, they become legendary. And another fascinating category are misaligned die strikes where one die is out of position, causing part of the design to be missing or distorted, and on 1996 cents some show dramatic shifts where Lincoln's portrait is tilted or part of the reverse is missing, and these attract specialists who love oddities, and while some are subtle, the most extreme misalignments are extremely valuable, and now we must emphasize the importance of condition, because while many 1996 error cents exist in circulated grades, it is the uncirculated, mint state survivors that command the greatest value, and grading companies assign numbers on the Sheldon scale from 1 to 70, with MS 67, MS 68, or higher being nearly flawless. And when an error coin survives in such pristine condition, it becomes an almost priceless combination of rarity and perfection, and wealthy collectors pay millions to secure such coins, treating them like pieces of fine art, and auction history proves this, as coins with rare errors in high grades have consistently broken records, and the 1996 cent is no exception, because when dramatic errors like double dies or wrong planchets are authenticated and graded at high levels, they can achieve values of $2 million or more, and it is important to remember that billions of 1996 cents were struck. But only a handful of these extreme errors exist, making them scarcer than even some famous gold coins, and scarcity combined with demand creates immense value, and demand is strong because collectors love Lincoln cents, one of the most collected series in the world, and error coins add spice and challenge to that pursuit, making them irresistible. And beyond the monetary value, there is also the human fascination with mistakes, because people are naturally drawn to flaws, to things that deviate from the norm. And in coins those deviations are celebrated, because they reveal the hidden workings of the mint, the moments when machines or humans slipped, and they preserve those mistakes forever in metal, turning accidents into treasures, and this philosophical aspect adds depth to the appeal of error coins, making them more than just money, making them history, art, and chance combined, and when you put all of this together, the double dies, the off-center strikes, the broad strikes, the wrong planchets, the die breaks, the misaligned dies, the transitional compositions, the compound errors, the pristine uncirculated conditions, the rarity among billions, the passionate demand from collectors, the auction battles that drive prices higher and higher, you can see clearly how the 1996 1 cent can be worth $2 million, and perhaps even more as time passes, because as these coins become older their rarity increases, their stories grow more legendary, and collectors compete even harder to own them, ensuring that values only rise. And when you think about it, it is remarkable that something as small and seemingly insignificant as a penny can carry such value, but that is the magic of numismatics, the blending of history, mistakes, rarity, and human desire, and that is why we encourage everyone to check their change carefully, to study their coins, to learn about the signs of errors, because it is always possible that a $2 million 1996 cent is still out there waiting to be found by someone with sharp eyes, and the discovery of such a coin could change a life forever, transforming an ordinary day into an extraordinary story. And so the legend of the 1996 $2 million penny lives on, inspiring treasure hunters, collectors, and dreamers alike, reminding us all that hidden fortunes can be found in the most ordinary of places if only we know where and how to look.